Hidden on page 278 of the One Big Beautiful Bill is a 10-year moratorium on states' rights to regulate AI for the next 10 years. Yo, what are we doing, dude? Now, I understand some of the arguments for and against this position, but people like Marjorie Taylor Greene supposedly didn't even know that this was included in the bill when she voted until after she voted yes on it. Dude. First and foremost, I'd like to say that I'm a huge proponent and encourager of AI. I think it's the natural flow of the technology of things. For those who don't know, I've been a professional web developer for the last 20-something years. And AI in and of itself has enhanced my business in so many ways. Tasks that used to take me hours and cost hundreds of dollars, I can now do in seconds. AI is objectively a good thing in my opinion. And like most things, I believe in duality, where there will be an equal amount of good and potentially bad that can come from it. The AI theory kind of reminds me of the whole social media concept where it's like, is social media bad or good? And there's a great argument for either side of that position. But generally speaking, I try to not fight a tidal wave, and AI is inevitable, and the United States needs to compete in this area, no doubt about it. So to say that we need to reject AI in totality or that it represents some level of evil, I think is incorrect. But what is absolutely certain is that the next 10 years of AI will undoubtedly be the Pandora's box or not of what this thing is capable of doing. Because the sheer computing power, where companies like NVIDIA, for example, have computer stacks that can fit on a desk that can process more power than the entire internet. Like in a recent NVIDIA product announcement, they showcased something that could move more data than the entire internet that sat on a desk. All the files of the entire internet. So whatever happens in the next 10 years will be crucial, not only for the United States, but for human beings and really just humanity as a whole. So to take that ability to regulate something that is highly contested out of the states to make that decision when state governments are arguably a lot more nimble than the federal government is, just doesn't seem good to me. Now, look, there's a lot of good things in the One Big Beautiful Bill, and there's also a lot of bad things, like the increases to the debt, and there's been a lot of critics of this. And of course, the GOAT, Thomas Massie, is against it, but apparently he should be kicked out of the party, but whatever. One of the only dudes that actually sticks to his principles, but I digress. I think people just vastly underestimate the capability of what artificial intelligence and AI models will do to society. And generally, I do think it will be a net positive, eliminating minuscule and menial tasks, allowing us to be considerably more efficient and creative. But on these hotly contested issues, if we're going to sit here on the right and argue that the power should go to the states to make X, Y, and Z decision, something as critical as regulating AI models probably should do the same. And if you want to suggest that maybe it shouldn't, well then 10 years is certainly too long of a stretch to make that decision and set it in stone. I really hope they do something about this, but they probably won't. Now remember, I personally believe in the concept of duality, which means, to simplify things, that I believe that AI could represent the greatest boom and acceleration for technology, for humanity, that perhaps the world has ever known. But what coincides with that also happens to be perhaps the greatest threat to humanity that has also ever existed. So to casually slide such a significant issue amongst, budget resolutions for certain aspects of the government and how it's run just seems to be oversimplifying a highly complex issue that certainly needs to be addressed, certainly in a more formal way than this. Because when you couple the capacity of AI, the technology of it, and the theoretical military threats that come with not only all of this existing data, but the computing power with all of this other technology on top of that, there's something really significant here. Because as a somewhat amateur technologist, as small as my information understanding might be, it's pretty clear that pretty much every computer is hackable. And these things are all around us. And when you see how advanced these audio models as well as these video generation models are, it's hard to deny that this thing is escalating. Even as it relates to just a microcosm of one specific industry like mine that I alluded to before. I can do things that used to take me hours and cost me hundreds of dollars in seconds, better, faster, easier. And if there is duality, there's also that same transition of efficiency for things that could potentially be bad. And Elon, hate him or love him, has brought up the need to regulate this or create at the very least some type of global understanding and or agreement about what should be admissible, I guess you could say. And I'm certainly not a globalist to any extent, but there's something very significant here that certainly does not belong shoved into a budget bill basically on page 278. And just like, yeah, we'll deal with it in 10 years. When it's advanced to perhaps a level that is uncontainable. And again, I'm for AI, but that's my story.